You settle into a quiet evening, the world outside hushed, as if holding its breath. Imagine a soft breeze carrying the scent of pine, the kind that makes you want to close your eyes and drift. Tonight, you're not just resting, you're stepping into a story, one that unfolds in a year so strange, so shadowed, it's been called the worst in human history. Picture yourself in 536, where the air feels heavier, the sky dimmer, and every step you take is through a world cloaked in twilight. Let's wander together, gently, into this forgotten time, with only the flicker of candlelight to guide us. May your evening be calm, your dreams soft as moonlight on an ancient ruin. You stand on a hill, somewhere in the Eastern Roman Empire, perhaps near Constantinople. The horizon should glow with the pinks and golds of dusk, but it doesn't. The sky is wrong, muted, like a painter forgot to add color. A faint haze clings to the air. Not quite fog, not quite smoke, but something in between. It smells faintly of ash, though no fire burns nearby. You squint upward, and the sun, that bold orb you take for granted, is a pale disk, barely warm on your skin. People around you murmur, their tunics flapping in the chill wind. They point at the sky, their faces creased with unease. You hear a farmer mutter about crops, a priest whisper of omens. Something is happening, something vast, and you're right in the middle of it. This isn't just a bad day. The world, as you know it, is shifting. Far away, volcanoes have roared to life. Perhaps in Iceland, perhaps in the tropics, scholars still aren't sure. Their ash has soared into the heavens, spreading like a veil across the globe. You can't see the eruptions, but you feel their aftermath. The air tastes gritty, and your throat scratches when you breathe too deeply. In 536, this haze will linger for months, maybe years, dimming the sun and cooling the earth. It's not the kind of cold that makes you shiver and laugh, pulling your cloak tighter. It's a deeper cold, one that seeps into the soil, into the roots of wheat and barley, into the bones of empires. You walk downhill, your sandals crunching on gravel. Below, a village hums with life, though it's quieter than it should be. Smoke curls from chimneys, but the fires seem to struggle, as if they, too, are tired. You pass a woman kneading dough, her hands dusted with flour, her eyes darting to the sky. She's trying to make bread, but the grain is scarce this year. You overhear her mutter about sky dust, a term you'd chuckle at if it weren't so eerie. In your modern life, you'd check a weather app, maybe joke about needing a better forecast. But here, in 536, the sky is a riddle no one can solve. You smile faintly, thinking of how your phone would be useless now, its screen glowing with no answers. The strangest thing, though, isn't the sky, it's the stories people tell about it. You pause by a marketplace, where a wiry old man, his beard streaked with gray, spins a tale to a small crowd. He claims the haze is the breath of a sleeping dragon, curled beneath the earth. The crowd half laughs, half nods, because what else can they do? You catch a whiff of roasted chestnuts from a nearby stall, a small comfort in the gloom. The old man's story is nonsense, of course, but it's a reminder. People have always woven myths to make sense of the unknown. You wonder if, centuries from now, someone will tell equally wild tales about your world's quirks, maybe about Wi-Fi signals or electric cars. Historians still debate what exactly triggered this global twilight. Some point to a single massive eruption, others to a series of smaller ones, their ash combining into a perfect storm. Ice cores from Greenland, drilled deep into ancient snow, show spikes of sulfate from this time, proof of volcanic fury. But you don't need ice cores to feel the weight of 536. You see it in the hunched shoulders of a shepherd guiding his flock, their wool matted from endless damp. You hear it in the creak of a cartwheel, slower than usual, as if the world itself is too weary to spin. The shepherd glances at you, his eyes tired but kind. He offers you a sip of watered wine from a clay jug, and you accept, the sour tang grounding you in this moment. You move on, your cloak brushing against wildflowers that droop under the haze. The landscape feels like a painting left out in the rain, still beautiful, but fading. You think of modern parallels, smoggy cities, overcast days when you crave sunlight. But this is different. This isn't a day or a week, it's a year, maybe more, of half-light. You pass a child drawing in the dirt with a stick, sketching what looks like a sun with jagged edges. You smile. But there's a pang in your chest. Even the children notice the world is off. You tease them about needing better art supplies, but instead, you just watch, letting the moment settle. As night falls, the stars are faint, smothered by the haze. You find a spot by a low stone wall and sit, the rock cool against your back. A distant owl hoots its call muffled, as if it, too, is unsure of this world. You wrap your cloak tighter, thinking of how you'd usually be scrolling through your phone, maybe watching a video about history. Funny, isn't it? You're living history now. And it's not a screen or a book, it's the air you breathe, the ground beneath you. The year 536 is just beginning, and you're here, in its quiet, shadowed heart. There's a strange peace in that. A reminder that even in the worst times, life hums on. You lean back, the wall steady behind you. The village below glows faintly with torchlight, a small defiance against the dark. You wonder what tomorrow will bring, more haze, more whispers, more questions. For now, though, you rest, letting the world's weight slip away. History, after all, isn't just battles and kings. It's moments like this, a quiet hill, a strange sky, and you, breathing it all in. Part 2. You wake to a dawn that barely breaks, the sky still draped in that strange, ashen veil. The air is sharper now, nipping at your fingertips as you pull your cloak tighter. You're still near that village, the one with the tired fires and murmuring farmers. But today you feel the weight of 536 settling deeper. The sun, if you can call it that, hangs low, a pale smudge behind the haze. It's not just dim, it's weak, like a candle flickering in a draft. You breathe in, and the air carries a faint metallic tang, as if the earth itself is exhaling something ancient and restless. Let's walk further, you and I, through this world where light feels like a memory. May your evening be as gentle as a whisper, your rest as soft as moonlight on forgotten stones. You head toward the village square, your sandals scuffing against the packed earth. The haze is thicker today, and you notice how it softens the edges of everything, houses, trees, even faces. People move slowly, their voices hushed, as if afraid to disturb the stillness. You pass a baker's stall, the scent of fresh bread faint but comforting. The loaves are smaller than they should be, and the baker, a broad man with flour-dusted hands, grumbles about the weak harvest. You catch his eye, and he shrugs as if to say, "What can we do?" You smile, thinking of how you check the news on your phone for answers, only to find endless ads instead. No app can explain this sky, no headline can capture its strangeness. The truth is, the world is cooling. Those distant volcanoes, their ash still drifting high above, have trapped the sun's warmth like a thief in the night. You don't know the science, not yet, but you feel it in the frost that lingers on the grass, in the way your breath clouds even at midday. In Constantinople, far from this village, scholars are scratching their heads, their scrolls filled with notes about a dry fog that won't lift. You imagine them, hunched over candlelight, arguing about omens versus nature. You tease them about needing a coffee break, but here, in 536, coffee's centuries away. Instead, you buy a small loaf from the baker, its crust hard but warm, and nibble as you walk. You pause by a well, where a group of women draw water, their buckets clinking softly. They're talking about the sky, of course. It's all anyone talks about. One woman, her hair braided tightly, says she saw the sun bleed last week, its edges red as fire. Another scoffs, calling it a trick of the haze, but you notice her glance upward, uneasy. You lean against the well's stone edge, the cold seeping through your cloak. The women's voices are soothing, like a lullaby, and you let them wash over you. But their words carry a truth. The sun's fading is no mere oddity. It's changing everything, fields, markets, even the way people look at each other. Here's a quirky detail. Some villagers have started painting their doors with bright colors: ochre, indigo, even a garish green. You spot one as you wander past a row of houses, its vivid blue standing out like a shout in the gloom. A boy nearby, no older than 10, tells you it's to wake the sun. You nod, hiding a smile. It's absurd, but you get it. In your world, don't you light up your screens with bright wallpapers to chase away a bad day? People have always found ways to fight the dark, even if it's just with a splash of paint. You pat the boy's shoulder, and he grins, his teeth slightly crooked, a reminder that life, even now, has its small joys. Historians still argue about how quickly people noticed the climate's shift. Some say the fog's effects were immediate, others that it crept up, month by month, until the world was undeniably colder. Tree rings from this time, studied centuries later, show stunted growth, proof of a sun-starved earth. But you don't need tree rings to see the signs. You notice the market stalls are emptier, the fruit softer, the vegetables smaller. A merchant, his beard flecked with gray, offers you a shriveled apple, calling it the last of the season. You take it, its skin rough against your palm, and thank him. He waves you off, muttering about needing a miracle. You keep walking, the village fading behind you as you reach open fields. The wheat here is sparse, its stalks thin and drooping. You kneel, running your fingers over the soil. It's cold, too cold for spring. A farmer nearby, his hands calloused, digs at the earth with a wooden hoe. He doesn't look up, but you hear him curse the sky under his breath. You think of modern farmers, their tractors and apps tracking weather patterns. Would they fare better in 536? Probably not. Nature, you realize, doesn't care about your tools or your plans. You stand brushing dirt from your hands and move on, the farmer's quiet frustration lingering in your mind. As evening falls, the haze seems to thicken, swallowing the horizon. You find a spot under a gnarled olive tree, its leaves dusted with ash. The ground is hard, but you sit, wrapping your cloak around you. The air smells of damp earth and something faintly sour, like fermenting fruit. You take another bite of the apple. Its flesh tart but satisfying. In the distance, a dog barks, its sound muffled by the fog. You think of that blue door again, its brightness a small rebellion. Maybe it didn't wake the sun, but it woke something in the people who painted it. You lean back, the trees bark rough against your spine, and let your eyes drift closed. The world of 536 is quiet, but it's not silent. You hear the creak of a distant cart, the low hum of voices from the village, the rustle of leaves above you. These are the sounds of people holding on, of life refusing to stop. You wonder what you'd do in their place: paint a door, tell a story, or just keep walking, like you are now. History doesn't feel like a textbook here. It's the weight of the apple in your hand, the chill in your bones, the faint hope in a boy's grin. You breathe out, your breath a small cloud in the dusk, and settle into the moment, ready for whatever this strange year brings next. Part 3. You rise from beneath the olive tree, the morning air still heavy with that ashen haze. The world feels quieter now, as if it's holding its breath, waiting for something to shift. Your cloak is damp from the night's dew, and you shake it out, the faint scent of wet wool mingling with the earth's musty exhale. The fields stretch before you, their sparse wheat stalks bowing under the weight of a sunless spring. You're still in 536, wandering through a year that grows stranger with each step. Let's keep moving, you and I, through this chilled landscape where hunger begins to whisper. May your evening be as soft as a sigh, your dreams as calm as a starlit ruin. You follow a dirt path toward a cluster of farms, the ground crunching under your sandals. The haze hasn't lifted, it seems thicker, if anything, casting a gray veil over the horizon. You pass a field where a farmer and his son work, their hoes striking the soil with dull thuds. The wheat here is pitiful, barely knee-high, its tips yellowed and brittle. You pause, watching the farmer wipe sweat from his brow despite the cold. He mutters something about the gods forsaking the harvest, and you feel a pang. In your world, you'd scroll through a grocery app, oblivious to the soil's struggle. Here, the Earth's silence is louder than any notification. The cooling climate, driven by that volcanic ash high above, has choked the growing season. Across Europe, Asia, and beyond, fields like this one are failing. You don't see the full scope, but you feel it in the emptiness of the landscape. The farmer's son, a lanky boy with dirt-streaked cheeks, notices you and offers a shy nod. You nod back, thinking of how you joke about needing a better farm-to-table plan. But the truth is stark: without crops, there's no table. The hunger is starting. Not just here, but in villages and cities across the world, a slow tide that will soon flood lives. You keep walking, the path leading you to a small market at the edge of the farms. The stalls are sparse, with only a few baskets of shriveled turnips and wilted greens. A woman haggles over a handful of barley, her voice sharp but tired. You catch a whiff of something sour, spoiled grain maybe, or the damp rot of a bad season. The merchant, his tunic stained with sweat, shakes his head, saying there's no more to spare. You think of that blue door from the village, its bright paint a distant memory. No one's painting doors here. They're too busy counting grains, rationing what little they have. Here's an odd detail. Some farmers have started eating things you'd never imagine. You overhear two men by a stall, their voices low, talking about boiling tree bark to make a kind of porridge. One laughs, saying it tastes like regret, but his eyes are hollow. You grimace, imagining the gritty texture, the bitter aftertaste. In your time, you'd wince at a bad takeout order, maybe leave a snarky review. But these people aren't choosing, they're surviving. You wonder if you'd be brave enough to choke down bark soup, or if you'd just stare at it, hoping for a miracle. Historians still debate whether the famine of 536 hit harder than the panic it caused. Some argue the crop failures were catastrophic, wiping out entire regions' food supplies. Others say the fear, whispers of divine wrath or cosmic curses, did more to unravel communities. You see both sides here. The market's tension is palpable. Not just from empty baskets but from the way people glance at the sky, as if it might explain itself. You buy a small turnip, its skin tough and warty, and slip it into your cloak. It's not much, but it feels like a tether to this moment, a reminder of what's at stake. You leave the market, the path winding toward a stream. Its water is sluggish, reflecting the gray sky like a dull mirror. You kneel, splashing your face, the cold biting but refreshing. A woman nearby fills a clay jug, her hands trembling slightly. She tells you the stream's flow is weaker than last year, and the fish are scarce. You nod, thinking of how you'd check a weather report for drought warnings, maybe complain about a dry summer. But this isn't a season, it's a shift. A world tilting into scarcity. You offer her a small smile, and she returns it, faint but real, a flicker of warmth in the gloom. As you walk on, the fields give way to scattered huts, their thatched roofs sagging under the damp. You hear a child crying inside one, a soft, insistent sound that tugs at you. A mother's voice soothes, low and steady, promising bread soon. You think of the bark porridge again and swallow hard. The hunger isn't just physical, it's in the air, in the way people move, slower, as if saving energy for tomorrow. You pass a man carving a wooden spoon, his knife scraping rhythmically. He doesn't look up, but his focus is calming, a small act of creation in a world that feels like it's unraveling. Evening creeps in, the haze swallowing what little light remains. You find a spot by a low hedge, its leaves sparse but soft. You sit, the turnip heavy in your cloak, and take a bite. It's bitter, almost woody, but you chew slowly, letting the taste ground you. In the distance, a fire glows from a hut, its light faint but stubborn. You think of modern comforts, microwaved meals, cozy blankets, and smile faintly. You trade this turnip for a pizza, no question, but there's something raw, something real, about this moment. You lean back, the hedge rustling softly. And let the world settle around you. The year 536 is teaching you something, though you're not sure what yet. It's in the farmer's tired hands, the mother's soothing voice, the man's careful carving. Life doesn't stop, even when the sun hides. You breathe out, your breath a small cloud in the dusk, and feel the quiet strength of this place. History isn't just the big moments, it's these small ones, stitched together, holding the world upright. You close your eyes, the stream's faint gurgle a lullaby, and let the night carry you forward. Part 4. You stir from your rest by the hedge. The morning air sharp and heavy with that ever-present haze. The turnip's bitter taste lingers on your tongue, a reminder of the lean days you're walking through. You're in 536. And the world feels like it's holding its breath, caught in a gray limbo. Today, you're heading toward Constantinople, the heart of the Eastern Roman Empire, where the streets hum with life despite the chill. Your cloak brushes the damp grass as you stand, the faint scent of earth and smoke clinging to you. Let's wander together, you and I, into the city's bustling yet shivering embrace. May your evening be as gentle as a whisper, your dreams as soft as moonlight on ancient walls. You follow a well-trodden road, the haze softening the horizon into a blur. The path grows busier as you near Constantinople, with carts creaking under meager loads and travelers wrapped in woolen cloaks. The air smells of salt and baked clay, mingling with the faint tang of ash that never seems to fade. You pass a merchant leading a donkey, its saddlebags half empty, and he mutters about poor trade. You nod, thinking of how you check stock prices or news alerts in your world, only to find chaos there too. Here, the chaos is quieter, but it's in every glance toward the dim sky. Constantinople looms ahead, its walls rising like a promise against the haze. You enter through a massive gate, the stone cool under your hand as you brush past. The city is alive. Despite the cold, streets packed with vendors, children darting through crowds, and the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer. But the chill is undeniable. You see breath clouding from mouths, hands tucked into sleeves, and fires burning brighter in braziers. The sun, still a pale smudge, offers little warmth, and the volcanic ash high above keeps the world in shadow. And something sweet, perhaps honeyed bread. Stalls are less full than they should be, with gaps where fruit or grain might have been. A woman sells small clay pots, her fingers red from the cold. And you pause to admire one, its surface etched with swirling lines. She tells you it's for storing barley, if there's any left. You smile, thinking of that bark porridge you heard about, better to store hope than that gritty mess. You tease her about needing a better sales pitch, but instead you buy the pot. Its weight grounding you in this moment. Here's a quirky detail. The cold has sparked a strange fashion trend. You notice people wearing layered tunics, not just for warmth but in bright, mismatched colors, red over green, yellow peeking from blue. It's as if they're defying the gray sky with every stitch. You spot a young man, his cloak a patchwork of scraps, strutting like he's at a festival. He catches your eye and winks, as if to say, "Why not?" You grin, thinking of your own wardrobe, those bold socks you wear to brighten a bad day. Maybe you're not so different, you and this colorful stranger, both chasing light in your own way. Emperor Justinian, ruling from his palace, is starting to feel the strain of 536. You don't see him, but you hear whispers in the market. His tax collectors are pushing harder, his armies stretched thin. The crop failures are hitting the city's granaries, and even the wealthy are rationing. You pass a scribe scribbling on parchment, his ink smudging in the damp air. He's copying a report, maybe about the harvest or the haze, his brow furrowed. You wonder what Justinian makes of this year. Does he see it as a test, a curse, or just bad luck? Historians still debate whether his policies worsened the crisis or held the empire together. But you feel the city's pulse, steady yet uneasy. You stop by a fountain, its water trickling slowly, as if reluctant to flow. A group of men nearby argue softly, their voices a soothing hum. One claims the haze is God's warning, another blames distant volcanoes, closer to the truth, you know. You dip your hands in the fountain, the cold biting but refreshing. The men's debate reminds you of modern arguments, endless threads online, everyone's certain they're right. You joke about needing a fact-checker, but here, facts are as slippery as the haze. You shake water from your hands and move on, the pot tucked under your arm. As evening falls, the city glows with torchlight, a defiance against the dimming world. You find a spot near a tavern. Its wooden benches worn but inviting. You sit, the air carrying laughter and the clink of cups, though the mood is subdued. A woman sings inside, her voice low and haunting, like a lullaby for a troubled city. You think of that blue door from the village, the bright tunics here, small rebellions against the dark. The clay pot rests in your lap, a reminder of the barley that might never fill it. You trace its etched lines, feeling the city's heartbeat around you. The year 536 is heavy, but Constantinople endures. You see it in the vendor's call, the scribe's careful strokes, the singer's quiet melody. Life doesn't pause, even when the sun falters. You lean back, the tavern's warmth seeping through the wall, and let the moment settle. History is here, in the cold air, the crowded streets, the stubborn flicker of human spirit. You close your eyes, the singer's voice weaving through the haze, and let the city carry you forward. Part 5. You linger near the tavern, the singer's voice fading as you step back into Constantinople's chilly streets. The haze clings to the air, a constant companion in 536, and the torchlight casts long, wavering shadows on the cobblestones. Your clay pot, tucked under your arm, feels heavier now, a quiet reminder of the city's dwindling stores. The night air carries a faint whiff of smoke and sweat, mingling with the damp scent of stone. You're still in the heart of the Eastern Roman Empire. But something new stirs, an unseen threat creeping through the crowds. Let's walk on, you and I, through this city where shadows hide more than just the cold. May your evening be as soft as a whisper, and the air feels thicker, pressing against your skin. You pass a group of laborers huddled around a brazier, their faces flushed from the fire's glow. One coughs a dry, rasping sound that lingers in your ears. You pull your cloak tighter, not just against the chill but against the growing unease. The cold, the hunger, you've seen their marks. But now, something else is stirring, something that thrives in cramped alleys and weakened bodies. You think of modern cities, their crowded subways and flu seasons, and wonder how you'd fare without a pharmacy nearby. The volcanic ash, still choking the sky, has done more than cool the earth. It's weakened people, their bodies strained by hunger and cold, their defenses crumbling. In Constantinople, where thousands live shoulder to shoulder, disease finds fertile ground. You don't know it yet, but this is the prelude to the Justinian plague, a shadow that will soon sweep through the empire. You see its early signs, a woman leaning against a wall, her face pale, her breath shallow, a child with a feverish flush, clinging to his mother's skirts. You pause, the clay pot cold against your side, and feel the city's pulse falter, just slightly. You turn down a market street, now mostly empty. The stalls shuttered for the night. A lone vendor sweeps the ground, his broom scraping softly. He offers you a cup of watered wine, his hands trembling, not from cold, you realize, but something deeper. You accept, the wine's sour tang cutting through the haze's metallic aftertaste. He mutters about bad air, a common belief that illness rides the wind. You nod, thinking of how you'd Google flu symptoms in your world, maybe stock up on vitamin C. Here, there's no search bar, no quick fix, just whispers and hope. You tease him about needing a better doctor, but the worry in his eyes stops you. Here's a peculiar detail. Some locals have taken to wearing amulets, small pouches filled with herbs or etched stones, tied around their necks. You spot one on a young woman hurrying past, her cloak flapping. She touches it absently, as if it might ward off the creeping sickness. You smile faintly, thinking of the blue door meant to wake the sun, or those bright tunics defying the gloom. These amulets are another small rebellion, a way to feel in control. In your time, don't you cling to lucky charms or rituals, a favorite mug, a playlist for tough days? You brush your fingers against the clay pot, wondering if it's become your own talisman. Historians still debate when the plague's first sparks ignited. Some say 530 SIXS cold and famine set the stage, weakening bodies for the outbreak that would erupt by 541. Others argue smaller epidemics were already simmering, carried by trade ships or travelers. You see the seeds here, in the coughs and fevers, the crowded tenements where air barely moves. You pass a healer's stall, its table cluttered with dried leaves and clay jars. The healer, an older man with deep-set eyes, mixes a paste, claiming it purifies the blood. You watch. Curious but skeptical, the scent of mint and something bitter rising from his work. His hands are steady, but his customers' faces are tight with fear. You keep moving. The streets sloping toward the harbor. The air grows salter, the haze mixing with a faint fishy tang. You hear gulls crying, their calls muffled, and see ships bobbing in the dark water. Their sails furled. A sailor unloads crates, his movements slow, his face gaunt. You wonder if he's brought more than goods, perhaps the first traces of disease from distant ports. You lean against a wooden post, the harbor's rhythm soothing despite the tension. The water laps softly, and you think of modern ports, their scanners and quarantines. Would they have caught this shadow before it spread? Maybe, maybe not. As night deepens, the city's lights flicker like stars fighting the haze. You find a stone bench near a small church, its walls etched with crosses. You sit, the clay pot in your lap, and listen to the faint chant of evening prayers drifting from inside. The sound is calming, a thread of continuity in a fracturing world. You think of the vendor's trembling hands, the woman's amulet, the healer's hopeful paste. Constantinople is holding on, but it's fraying. Thread by thread. You trace the pot's etched lines, feeling the weight of 536 settle deeper. You joke about needing a vacation from this year, but the church's chant holds you, grounding you in its quiet strength. The year 536 is a tapestry of small battles, against cold, hunger, and now this creeping shadow. You see it in the sailor's steady work, the healer's careful mixing, the prayers rising into the night. History isn't just emperors or wars, it's these moments, fragile but stubborn. You lean back, the bench cool against your spine, and let the city's hum wrap around you. The haze is still there, the threat still growing, but for now, you rest, the churches chant a lullaby in the dark. Part 6. You rise from the stone bench, the church's chants fading into the night. The haze still blankets Constantinople, but you're leaving the city now, drawn toward the vast lands of Persia. The air is cool, carrying the faint salt of the harbor as you slip through the city gates. Your clay pot, nestled in your cloak, bumps gently against your side, a quiet companion in 530 SIXS endless twilight. The road stretches eastward, its edges blurred by the ever-present ash. You're stepping into the Sassanid Empire, where grandeur wrestles with the same hunger and cold you've seen elsewhere. Let's wander together, you and I, through a land of fading glory. May your evening be as soft as a sigh, your rest as gentle as moonlight on ancient sands. You follow the road. The ground hard under your sandals, the air tinged with dust and a distant hint of myrrh. The haze is no kinder here, dulling the sun to a pale coin in the sky. You pass a caravan, its camels plodding slowly, their loads lighter than they should be. The driver, his turban slightly askew, mutters about poor markets in Ctesiphon. You nod, thinking of how you check trade news online, maybe grumble about supply chains. Here, the supply chain is these weary camels, and the news is whispered from one traveler to the next, each tale grimmer than the last. Persia, under King Khosrow I, is a land of opulent palaces and sprawling bazaars, but 530 SIXS chill has crept into its heart. The volcanic ash, still drifting high above, has cooled the fields here too, starving the barley and wheat that feed the empire. You see it in the sparse roadside stalls, where merchants offer shriveled dates and tough bread. A woman, her bracelets jingling softly, sells small clay lamps, their wicks flickering weakly. You pause. The scent of burning oil's sharp but comforting. She tells you the harvest failed again, and even the nobles are tightening their belts. You think of that bark porridge from the village. Persians, it seems, aren't eating much better. You buy a lamp, its clay warm in your hands, and keep moving. The road winds through a valley, the hills dusted with frost despite the season. You hear a low hum, a shepherd singing to his flock, his voice steady but mournful. His sheep huddle close, their wool matted from the damp. You feel the weight of Persia's struggle. Not just in the empty stalls but in the quiet, the way people move as if saving strength. You tease the shepherd about needing a Spotify playlist to lift his mood, but his song, raw and real, holds you. You tuck the lamp into your cloak, next to the pot, and let the valley's stillness settle around you. Here's a curious detail. The royal astrologers, famed for reading the stars, are in a panic. You overhear two travelers by a roadside fire, their voices low, talking about the court's stargazers. They say the heavens are broken, the stars too dim to guide their predictions. One laughs, saying the astrologers burned a fortune in incense to appease the sky. You smile, thinking of those bright tunics in Constantinople, or that blue door meant to wake the sun. Persia's astrologers, it seems, are just as desperate to control the uncontrollable. In your world, don't you check horoscopes or weather apps, hoping for a glimpse of what's next? You share a sip of their watered wine, its tang grounding you, and move on. Historians still debate how deeply the climate crisis of 536 shook Persia. Some say the famine weakened Khosrow's grip, straining his wars with Rome. Others argue the Sassanids' wealth cushioned the blow, at least for the elite. You see both sides here. The roadside stalls are sparse, but the travelers' cloaks are finely woven, hinting at lingering riches. You pass a crumbling watchtower, its stones etched with faded carvings of winged bulls. A guard, his spear leaning against the wall, watches you pass. His face is gaunt, but his posture is proud, a reminder that Persia's spirit hasn't broken, not yet. You reach a small town, its mud brick houses glowing faintly with lamplight. The air smells of baked flatbread and something sour, spoiled grain, perhaps. You stop at a market square, where a storyteller spins tales to a small crowd. His voice is soothing, like a lullaby, weaving myths of fire gods and eternal springs. He doesn't mention the haze, but his story feels like a quiet rebellion against it. You think of the amulets in Constantinople, the villagers' painted doors. People everywhere, it seems, tell stories to keep the dark at bay. You joke about needing a Netflix subscription, but the storyteller's rhythm holds you, each word a small spark in the gloom. As night falls, the haze swallows the horizon. The stars barely pinpricks. You find a spot by a low wall, the ground cool but dry. You sit, the clay lamp and pot resting beside you, and light the lamp's wick. Its flame is small, but it pushes back the dark, just enough. You think of modern comforts, electric lights, instant heat, and smile faintly. You'd trade this lamp for a flashlight, no question. But there's something alive in its flicker, something that feels like Persia itself. In the distance, a dog howls, its cry muffled by the haze. You lean back, the wall steady against your spine, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The year 536 is heavy, but Persia endures, its people weaving stories, burning lamps, singing to their flocks. You see it in the caravan's slow march, the storyteller's steady voice, the guard's proud stance. History is here, in the frost on the hills, the empty stalls, the stubborn pulse of life. You close your eyes. The lamp's warmth a quiet anchor, and let the night carry you forward, deeper into this shadowed year. Part 7. You stir from your rest by the low wall. The clay lamp's faint glow now just a memory as its oil has burned away. The haze of 536 clings to the air, heavy with the scent of dust and distant fires. You're leaving Persia behind. Your sandals scuffing against the road as you journey toward the lands of China, where the Northern Wei dynasty grapples with the same shadowed sky. Your clay pot and lamp, tucked in your cloak, shift slightly, their weight a quiet reminder of the places you've walked. The road stretches far, the horizon blurred by ash. Let's drift together, you and I, along rivers silent under frost. May your evening be as soft as a whisper, your rest as gentle as moonlight on ancient waters. You follow a winding path, the air growing crisper, carrying a faint tang of wet stone and pine. The haze is relentless, dimming the sun to a pale smudge, its light barely warming your face. You pass a merchant caravan, its oxen plodding through the mud, their bells jingling faintly. The driver, his face weathered, complains of flooded roads and empty markets. You nod, thinking of how you'd check traffic apps or news feeds in your world, grumbling about delays. Here, the delay is the world itself, slowed by a sun that refuses to shine. You offer a small smile, and he shrugs, as if to say the sky owes him nothing. China, under the Northern Wei, is a land of sweeping rivers and terraced fields, but 530 SIXS cold has turned its bounty to scarcity. The volcanic ash, still high in the atmosphere, has chilled the growing season. And floods, sparked by erratic rains, have drowned what little crops remained. You see it as you reach a riverbank, its waters gray and sluggish, edged with frost. A fisherman casts his net. His movements slow, his catch pitifully small. You pause, the air damp and heavy, and catch a whiff of rotting reeds. The river, once alive with fish, is quiet, as if it, too, feels the weight of this year. You kneel by the water, splashing your face, the cold biting but grounding. A woman nearby, her hair tied back with a cloth, fills a bamboo bucket. She tells you the rice fields are failing, the grains too weak to ripen. You think of that bark porridge from the village, the shriveled dates in Persia. China's hunger is no different. Just dressed in different colors. You tease her about needing a better irrigation app, but her tired eyes stop you. Instead, you offer to carry her bucket a few steps, and she nods. Her gratitude a quiet warmth in the chill. You set the bucket down and move on, the river's murmur fading behind you. Here's a quirky detail: poets, ever the voice of the land, are writing odes to this endless winter. You overhear a traveler reciting one by a roadside stall, his voice soft but clear, lamenting a sky of iron and rivers that forget to flow. The words are beautiful, almost too much so for the grim reality. You smile, thinking of those astrologers in Persia, burning incense to fix the stars, or that blue door meant to wake the sun. Poets, it seems, are China's answer to the haze, weaving beauty from despair. In your world, don't you scroll through lyrics or quotes to soothe a bad day? You buy a small rice cake from the stall. Its texture dense but sweet, and tuck it into your cloak. Historians still debate how badly 530 SIXS climate crisis hit the Northern Wei. Some say the floods and famines fueled rebellions, cracking the dynasty's foundation. Others argue the court's wealth and granaries softened the blow, at least for a time. You see both truths here. The fisherman's empty net speaks of desperation, but the traveler's fine silk robe hints at lingering prosperity. You pass a Buddhist temple, its wooden eaves carved with dragons, incense drifting from within. A monk sweeps the steps, his movements calm, his face serene despite the cold. You wonder if faith is holding this land together, or if it's just another story, like the poet's words. You reach a village, its thatched roofs sagging under the damp. The air smells of wood smoke and something sharp, fermented beans, perhaps. You stop at a small square, where a crowd gathers around a storyteller, his hands waving as he describes a mythical flood tamed by a hero. The tale feels like a nod to the real floods drowning the fields, a way to make sense of the chaos. You think of the amulets in Constantinople, the storyteller in Persia. Everywhere, people spin tales to keep the dark at bay. You joke about needing a podcast to keep up. But the crowd's quiet focus pulls you in, each word a small anchor in the haze. As night falls, the haze thickens, the stars mere whispers in the sky. You find a spot by a willow tree, its branches drooping over the riverbank. You sit, the clay pot and lamp beside you, and nibble the rice cake, its sweetness a fleeting comfort. The river laps softly, a lullaby in the dark. You think of modern comforts, hot tea, a cozy couch, and smile faintly. You trade this rice cake for a latte, no question, but there's something raw, something real, in its simple flavor. In the distance, a flute plays, its notes fragile but clear, cutting through the haze. The year 536 is heavy, but China endures, its people casting nets, reciting poems, sweeping temple steps. You see it in the fisherman's steady hands, the monk's calm sweeps, the flute's quiet song. History is here, in the frost on the river, the empty fields, the stubborn pulse of life. You lean back. The willows bark cool against your spine, and let the river's rhythm wrap around you. The haze is still there, the hunger still growing, but for now you rest. The flute's melody a gentle guide into the night. Part 8. You awaken beneath the willow, the river's soft lapping still echoing in your ears. The haze of 536 hangs heavy, its ashen veil muting the dawn to a dull glow. Your cloak is damp from the riverbank's mist, and you shake it out, the faint scent of willow bark mingling with the ever-present tang of ash. The clay pot and lamp, nestled close, are cool to the touch, grounding you as you leave China's silent rivers behind. Today, you're turning toward the scattered hamlets of the world, small villages from Europe to Asia, where the common folk bear the weight of this shadowed year. Let's wander together, you and I, through places where life clings to crumbling edges. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on forgotten fields. You follow a narrow path, the ground uneven under your sandals, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and decay. The haze blurs the horizon, making every step feel like a journey into the unknown. You pass a lone traveler, his cart piled with ragged blankets, his eyes darting to the sky. He mutters about abandoned villages ahead, places where hunger has driven families away. You nod, thinking of how you check maps or news alerts in your world, maybe tweet about a ghost town. Here, the ghosts are in the silence, in the empty homes left to the frost. The volcanic ash, still choking the heavens, has turned villages into husks. Across the world, from the hills of Gaul to the plains of Mesopotamia, small communities are unraveling. You reach a hamlet, its thatched roofs sagging, its fields barren. The air smells of mildew and abandoned fires, a faint whiff of what was once home. A woman, her hands rough from work, stacks firewood outside a crumbling hut. She tells you most of her neighbors fled to cities, hoping for food, but she stays stubborn or maybe just tired. You think of the rice cake from China, the shriveled dates in Persia. Her meal tonight might be thinner still. You offer to carry a bundle of wood for her, and she nods, her eyes wary but grateful. The wood is damp, heavier than it looks, and you stack it by her door. She offers you a small bowl of broth, its surface slick with grease, and you accept, the warmth soothing despite its faint, earthy taste. You tease her about needing a better recipe app, but the broth's heat is a small miracle, and you sip it slowly, letting the moment settle. The hamlet feels like a whisper of the world you've seen, Constantinople's crowded streets, Persia's proud watchtowers, China's silent rivers, all struggling under the same dim sky. Here's an eccentric detail. Some villagers have taken to strange rituals, desperate to coax the sun back. You notice a circle of stones near the hamlet's edge, each painted with crude symbols, spirals, eyes, jagged lines. A boy, his tunic patched, tells you they're offerings to swallow the haze. You smile, thinking of the blue door meant to wake the sun, the poet's odes in China, the amulets in Constantinople. These stones are another quiet defiance, a plea carved in paint. In your time, Don't you light candles or make wishes, hoping to shift the world's weight? You pat the boy's shoulder, and he grins, a spark of life in the gloom. Historians still debate how many fled these villages in 536. Some say migration surged, flooding cities like Constantinople with desperate farmers. Others argue most stayed, too rooted or too weak to move. You see both truths here, the woman's stubborn stay, the traveler's tales of empty homes. You wander through the hamlet, passing abandoned huts, their doors creaking in the wind. A loom sits untouched in one, its threads tangled, a half-woven cloth frozen in time. You think of modern ghost towns, their rusted signs and silent streets, but this feels rawer, the loss still fresh in the air. You leave the hamlet, the path leading to a small stream, its water sluggish under a thin crust of ice. You kneel, breaking the ice with your hand, the cold biting but refreshing. A man nearby, his beard flecked with gray, repairs a fishing net, his fingers slow but steady. He tells you the stream's fish are gone, driven away by the cold or the floods. You nod, thinking of the fisherman in China, the sailor in Constantinople. Everywhere, the world's rhythm is off. You offer to hold the net's edge, and he grunts in thanks, the task a small tether to normalcy. As evening falls, the haze thickens, swallowing the last traces of light. You find a spot by a gnarled tree, its roots twisting into the earth like old hands. You sit, the clay pot and lamp beside you, and sip the last of the broth, its warmth fading but comforting. The air carries a faint hum, a mother's lullaby from a distant hut, soft but unbroken. You think of modern comforts, heated blankets, instant soup, and smile faintly. You trade this broth for a burger, no question, but there's something alive in its simplicity, something that tastes like survival. In the distance, a dog barks, its cry muffled by the haze. The year 536 is heavy, but these villages endure, their people stacking wood, painting stones, singing in the dark. You see it in the woman's steady hands, the man's careful knots, the boy's hopeful grin. History is here, in the crumbling huts, the barren fields, the stubborn pulse of life. You lean back, the trees bark rough against your spine, and let the lullaby wrap around you. The haze is still there, the emptiness still growing, but for now, you rest, the stream's faint trickle a quiet guide into the night. Part 9. You stir from beneath the gnarled tree, the stream's faint trickle still lingering in your ears. The haze of 536 cloaks the morning, its ashen veil muting the world to a soft gray. Your cloak is heavy with dew, and you shake it out, the scent of damp wool blending with the faint musk of earth. The clay pot and lamp, tucked close, are cool against your side, steady companions as you leave the crumbling hamlets behind. Today you're drawn to the places where faith holds sway, churches, temples, and sacred groves, where people seek meaning under a darkened sky. Let's wander together, you and I, through a world whispering prayers into the gloom. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on ancient altars. You follow a winding path, the ground soft under your sandals, the air thick with the scent of pine and distant incense. The haze dulls the sun to a pale disk, its light barely brushing your skin. You pass a traveler, his staff tapping rhythmically, a small bundle slung over his shoulder. He speaks of pilgrimages, of folk flocking to holy sites, seeking answers for the shadowed year. You nod, thinking of how you'd scroll through forums or news in your world, searching for meaning in chaos. Here, meaning lies in candlelight and whispered chants, in the hope that something listens. Across the world, from Constantinople's domed churches to Persia's fire temples, faith is a refuge in 536. The volcanic ash, still high above, has cast a shadow not just on fields but on hearts, stirring questions of divine will. You reach a small church, its stone walls weathered, its roof tiled in fading red. The air smells of wax and myrrh, and you step inside, the coolness of the stone floor soothing your feet. Candles flicker on an altar, their flames small but stubborn, casting shadows on icons of solemn saints. A priest, his robes frayed, murmurs prayers, his voice a low hum that calms the handful of worshippers kneeling nearby. You pause by a wooden bench, the clay pot heavy in your cloak, and watch a woman light a candle, her hands trembling. She whispers a prayer for her son, sick with fever, and you think of the amulets in Constantinople, the painted stones in the hamlet. Faith here is as tangible as the broth you sipped, as real as the lamp's fleeting glow. You tease her about needing a better healthcare plan. But the candle's light holds you, its warmth a quiet defiance against the haze. You light a candle too, its wick catching slowly, and set it among the others. A small act that feels like joining the chorus. Here's a peculiar detail. A monk in a nearby monastery has declared the haze a sign of the end times. You overhear two worshippers whispering about it. Their voices hushed but urgent. They say he's locked himself in a cell, scribbling prophecies on parchment, claiming the world has 3 years left. You smile faintly, thinking of the astrologers in Persia, burning incense to fix the stars, or the poets in China, weaving odes to a frozen sky. This monk's apocalyptic fervor is another thread in the tapestry of 536. A story to tame the unknown. In your time, don't you see doomsday posts online, each one certain the end is near? You share a glance with the worshippers, their eyes wide, and move on. Historians still debate how faith shaped 536's response to crisis. Some say religions, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, offered solace, knitting communities together. Others argue they fueled fear, with sermons of divine wrath driving panic. You see both here. The priest's steady prayers soothe, but the monk's prophecies unsettle. You leave the church. The air outside sharper, carrying a faint whiff of damp straw. A pagan shrine sits nearby, a simple stone circle with offerings of dried flowers and bread crusts. A woman scatters herbs. Her movements deliberate, her lips moving silently. You wonder if her gods feel closer than the churches, or if it's all the same hope, dressed differently. You keep walking. The path leading to a hill overlooking the village. The haze softens the landscape, blurring fields and rooftops into a dreamlike haze. You hear a distant chant, not Christian this time, but something older, rising from a grove below. The sound is raw, woven with drumbeats, and you imagine worshippers dancing under bare branches, their breath clouding in the cold. You think of modern rituals, concerts, rallies, moments when crowds seek something bigger. Would you join the chant, or stand here watching? You sit on the hill, the clay pot and lamp beside you, and let the distant rhythm wash over you. As evening falls, the haze thickens, the stars mere ghosts in the sky. You find a spot by a low stone, its surface etched with faint spirals. Perhaps an older face mark. You light the lamp again, its flame small but steady, pushing back the dark. The air carries a faint hum, the church's prayers, the grove's chants, blending into a quiet symphony. You think of modern comforts, streamed music, glowing screens, and smile faintly. You trade this lamp for a phone's flashlight, but its flicker feels alive. A pulse of 536's stubborn spirit. In the distance, an owl hoots, its call muffled by the haze. The year 536 is heavy, but faith endures, its people lighting candles, scattering herbs, chanting into the night. You see it in the priest's steady voice, the woman's careful offerings, the grove's distant drums. History is here, in the flickering flames, the whispered hopes, the stubborn pulse of belief. You lean back, the stone cool against your spine, and let the chants wrap around you. The haze is still there, the questions still growing, but for now you rest. The lamps glow a quiet guide into the dark. Part 10. You rise from beside the etched stone, the distant chants fading into the night's embrace. The haze of 536 still cloaks the world, its ashen veil softening the dawn to a muted glow. Your cloak is cool with morning dew, and you brush it off, the faint scent of moss mingling with the ever-present tang of ash. The clay pot and lamp, steady in your cloak, ground you as you shift your gaze from sacred places to the silent records of the earth itself. Today, you're peering into the science of this shadowed year. Through the ice and ash that tell its story, let's wander together, you and I, into a world where frozen secrets whisper truth. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on ancient snow. You follow a path that feels less traveled, the ground crunching under your sandals, the air sharp with the scent of frost and distant pines. The haze dulls the sun to a faint circle, its light barely warming your face. You pass a shepherd, his flock huddled close, their wool dusted with ash. He nods, his eyes tired, and speaks of a winter that never ends. You nod back, thinking of how you check a weather app in your world, maybe complain about a cold snap. Here, the cold is no snap, it's a deep, unyielding grip, etched into the Earth's very bones. The volcanic eruptions of 536, their ash still high above, have left marks far beyond the fields and rivers you've seen. In places like Greenland and Antarctica, ice has trapped this year's story, layer by layer, like a book written in frost. You don't see the ice cores, but imagine them, long cylinders of frozen time, drilled from glaciers, revealing spikes of sulfate, proof of those distant volcanoes. You pause by a frozen stream, its surface a dull mirror under the haze. You touch the ice, its chill biting your fingers, and think of scientists centuries later, slicing through these layers, reading the Earth's diary. It's a strange comfort, knowing this year's weight is preserved, even if its people couldn't name the cause. You keep walking, the path winding through a valley where frost clings to every blade of grass. The air smells of damp earth and something faintly sour, like rotting leaves. A woman nearby, her basket filled with withered roots, tells you the ground is too cold to yield. You offer to carry her basket a few steps, and she accepts, her hands trembling from cold or hunger. You think of the broth from the hamlet, the rice cake from China. Her roots look barely edible, but they're all she has. You tease her about needing a better grocery delivery, but the weight of her basket stops you. You set it down gently and move on, the valley's silence heavy around you. Here's an odd detail. Some scholars of the time, puzzled by the falling ash, thought it was stardust, a gift or curse from the heavens. You overhear two travelers by a roadside fire, their voices low, debating whether the haze is divine or earthly. One laughs, saying his teacher swore the ash came from a cracked sky. You smile, thinking of the monk's apocalyptic prophecies, the poet's odes to frozen rivers, the painted stones meant to swallow the haze. These scholars, grasping at stardust, are just another voice in 530 SIXS chorus, trying to name the unnameable. In your world, don't you see wild theories online, each one chasing a spark of truth? You share a sip of their tea, its bitterness grounding you, and keep moving. Historians still debate how many volcanoes erupted to cause 530 SIXS twilight. Some say a single massive blast, perhaps in Iceland or the tropics, sent ash across the globe. Others argue multiple smaller eruptions, their effects compounding into a perfect storm. You see the evidence in the valley's frost, the stream's stubborn ice, the shepherd's weary eyes. You pass a tree, its rings tight and thin, a silent record of this sunless year. You touch its bark, rough and cold, and think of dendrochronologists, those modern scholars who read trees like books, confirming 530 SIXS chill. The tree stands quiet, but its story speaks, a whisper of ash and ice. You reach a small village, its huts clustered like weary travelers. The air smells of wood smoke and damp straw, and you stop by a market, its stalls nearly empty. A man sells small clay figurines, their shapes crude but hopeful, tiny suns, stars, birds. You buy one. A bird with outstretched wings, its clay cool in your hand. The man says it's for luck, to call back the light. You think of the lamp you carry, the candle you lit in the church, small tokens against the dark. You tuck the figurine next to the pot and lamp, feeling the weight of this year's quiet defiance. As evening falls, the haze thickens, the stars faint and far. You find a spot by a low ridge, the ground hard but sheltered. You sit, the clay pot, lamp, and figurine beside you, and light the lamp's wick, its flame a fragile glow. The air carries a faint hum, a distant wind, perhaps, or the valley's own breath. You think of modern tools, satellites, climate models, and smile faintly. You'd trade this lamp for a weather forecast. But its light feels alive, a pulse of 530 SIX's stubborn heart. In the distance, a wolf howls, its cry softened by the haze. The year 536 is heavy, but its secrets endure, locked in ice, etched in trees, carried in small clay birds. You see it in the shepherd's steady hands, the woman's gathered roots, the figurine's hopeful wings. History is here, in the frozen streams, the ash-dusted fields, the earth's quiet memory. You lean back, the ridge cool against your spine, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The haze is still there, the truth still unfolding, but for now you rest. The valley's silence a gentle guide into the night. Part 11. You stir from your rest by the low ridge, the lamp's faint flicker now just a wisp of smoke in the morning air. The haze of 536 cloaks the world, its ashen veil softening the dawn to a muted gray. Your cloak is stiff with frost, and you shake it out, the scent of cold earth blending with the ever-present tang of ash. The clay pot, lamp, and tiny bird figurine, tucked close, are cool against your side, anchoring you as you turn your gaze to the empires trembling under this shadowed year. Today, you're walking through the cracks in their foundations, where borders shift and power frays. Let's wander together, you and I, through a world where giants stumble. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on crumbling walls. You follow a rugged path, the ground uneven under your sandals, the air sharp with the scent of damp stone and distant smoke. The haze dulls the sun to a pale smudge, its light barely warming your face. You pass a merchant, his cart creaking under a load of coarse cloth, his eyes scanning the horizon for trouble. He mutters about bandits on the roads, emboldened by hunger and chaos. You nod, thinking of how you check news alerts in your world, maybe grumble about rising crime. Here, the news isn't the merchant's wary glance, the world's unrest a quiet hum beneath the haze. The volcanic ash, still high above, has weakened more than fields and rivers, it's straining the sinews of empires. In the Eastern Roman Empire, Justinian's armies struggled to hold distant borders, their supplies thinned by failed harvests. Persia's Sassanids, too, falter, their coffers drained by famine and restless tribes. Even China's northern way faces rebellions, sparked by flooded fields and empty granaries. You see it as you reach a Roman outpost, its stone walls weathered, its guards leaner than they should be. The air smells of sweat and oiled leather. And a soldier, his helmet dented, sharpens a blade with slow, deliberate strokes. He tells you of skirmishes nearby, of allies turning foe in the scramble for food. You pause by the outpost's gate, the clay pot heavy in your cloak, and watch a messenger ride off, his horse's hooves kicking up dust. The soldier says the message is for Constantinople, a plea for grain or men. You think of the broth from the hamlet, the rice cake from China. Here, even soldiers ration their bread. You tease him about needing a better logistics app, but the weight of his sword stops you. Instead, you offer a nod, and he returns it, his eyes tired but sharp, a reminder that empires don't fall quietly. You move on, the outpost's shadow fading behind you, the haze swallowing its edges. Here's an odd detail. A diplomatic letter, meant to broker peace between Rome and Persia, was lost in this chaos. You overhear two travelers by a roadside stall, their voices low, speaking of a courier who vanished, his satchel carrying terms for a truce. One laughs, saying the letter's probably buried in mud somewhere, a casualty of the floods. You smile, thinking of the scholar's stardust theories, the monk's apocalyptic prophecies, the painted stones meant to swallow the haze. This lost letter is another small tragedy, a mischance in a fracturing world. In your time, don't you see emails go unanswered, deals fall through in the noise? You buy a small loaf from the stall, its crust hard but warm. and tuck it into your cloak. Historians still debate how much 530 SIX's crisis reshaped empires. Some say the famines and plagues crippled Rome's defenses, paving the way for later invasions. Others argue the Sassanids and Wei adapted, their structures bending but not breaking. You see both here. The soldier's steady hand speaks of resilience, but the merchant's fear of bandits hints at collapse. You pass a crumbling bridge, its stones loosened by floods, a trade route now half forgotten. A woman nearby, her basket empty, tells you the bridge once bustled with carts. You offer to carry her basket a few steps, and she accepts, her silence heavier than the wicker. The bridge stands as a quiet witness to a world losing its connections. You keep walking, the path leading to a hill overlooking a valley. The haze blurs the landscape, softening fields and distant forts into a dreamlike fog. You hear a faint clatter, perhaps a patrol, or bandits, or just the wind rattling bare branches. You think of modern borders, their checkpoints and drones, and wonder how they'd hold in 530 SIX's twilight. You sit on the hill, the clay pot, lamp, and figurine beside you, and break off a piece of the loaf. Its texture is gritty, but it fills the hollow in your stomach. The valley below is quiet, but not empty. Fires glow faintly, signs of life clinging to the edges. As evening falls, the haze thickens. The stars mere whispers in the sky. You find a spot by a low stone wall, its surface rough but steady. You light the lamp, its flame small but defiant, pushing back the dark. The air carries a faint hum, a distant horn, perhaps, or the valley's own breath. You think of modern systems, supply chains, treaties, apps, and smile faintly. You'd trade this loaf for a sandwich. But its weight feels alive, a pulse of 530 SIX's stubborn will. In the distance, a horse whinnies, its cry softened by the haze. The year 536 is heavy, but empires endure, their people sharpening blades, carrying baskets, lighting fires in the dark. You see it in the soldier's steady strokes, the woman's silent steps, the merchant's wary eyes. History is here, in the crumbling bridges, the lost letters, the stubborn pulse of power. You lean back, the wall cool against your spine, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The haze is still there, the cracks still widening. But for now, you rest, the valley's silence a gentle guide into the night. Part 12. You awaken by the stone wall, the lamp's faint glow long faded, its wick a charred stub. The haze of 536 still blankets the world, softening the dawn to a muted gray, the air sharp with frost, and the faint tang of ash. Your cloak is stiff, dusted with dew, and you shake it out. The scent of damp wool grounding you. The clay pot, lamp, and bird figurine rest close, their weight a quiet reminder of the miles you've walked. Today, you're turning toward the human spirit. The small acts of resilience that flicker in this shadowed year. Let's wander together, you and I, through moments where hope endures. May your evening be as gentle as a whisper, your rest as soft as moonlight on weary hearts. You follow a winding path, the ground soft under your sandals, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and distant fires. The haze dulls the sun to a pale smudge, its light barely warming your skin. You pass a family, their cart piled with meager belongings, heading toward a distant town. The mother hums softly, her voice steady despite the hunger in her children's eyes. You nod, thinking of how you'd scroll through playlists in your world, seeking comfort in a song. Here, her hum is a lifeline, weaving warmth into the cold. You offer a small smile, and she returns it, a spark of strength in the gloom. The volcanic ash, still high above, has tested humanity's limits. But it hasn't broken them. Across the world, in villages and cities, people share what little they have, huddling together to outlast the dark. You reach a small settlement. Its huts clustered tightly, smoke curling from chimneys. The air smells of baked dough and something sharp, fermented roots, perhaps. A group of women knead bread by a communal fire, their hands moving in rhythm, their laughter soft but real. You pause, the clay pot heavy in your cloak, and watch them shape small loaves, each one a defiance of the barren fields. You think of the broth from the hamlet, the rice cake from China. These loaves are another small miracle. You step closer, and one woman, her hair streaked with gray, offers you a piece of bread. Its crust rough but warm. You accept, the taste earthy and slightly sour, a reminder of shared survival. You tease her about needing a better bakery app, but the bread's warmth stops you. Instead, you help knead a batch, your hands sinking into the sticky dough, the motion soothing. She tells you they've mixed in ground acorns, a trick to stretch the flour. You nod. Thinking of the bark porridge you heard of long ago, people everywhere, it seems, find ways to make do. The fire crackles, its heat a quiet anchor in the haze. Here's a quirky detail: one village, desperate for food, invented a new bread from nettles and wild seeds. You overhear two men by the fire, their voices low, chuckling about the prickly loaf that stings the tongue but fills the belly. One says it's better than starving, but his grin is wry. You smile, thinking of the painted stones meant to swallow the haze, the scholar's stardust theories, the lost letter buried in mud. This nettle bread is another small rebellion, a recipe born of necessity. In your world, don't you try quirky recipes when supplies run low, maybe tossing random spices into a dish? You share a sip of their watered ale, its tang grounding you, and move on. Historians still debate what kept societies together in 536. Some say shared hardship forged bonds, with neighbors pooling resources to survive. Others argue desperation drove division, with hoarding and conflict tearing communities apart. You see both here. The women's shared bread speaks of unity, but the family's wary cart hints at flight. You wander through the settlement, passing a man carving a wooden toy, his knife scraping softly. He's making it for his daughter, he says, to keep her smiling. You think of the clay bird figurine in your cloak, its wings a symbol of hope. You offer to hold the wood steady, and he nods, his focus a quiet act of love. You leave the settlement, the path leading to a meadow where frost lingers on the grass. The haze softens the horizon, blurring trees and distant hills into a dreamlike fog. You hear a faint song, a group of children playing, their voices rising in a game despite the cold. You sit on a fallen log, the clay pot, lamp, and figurine beside you, and break off another piece of the acorn bread. Its texture is gritty, but it fills you, a taste of 530 SIX's stubborn will. You think of modern comforts, take out cozy blankets, and smile faintly. You trade this bread for a pizza, but its warmth feels alive, a pulse of human grit. As evening falls, the haze thickens, the stars faint and far. You find a spot by a low hedge, its leaves sparse but soft. You light the lamp, its flame small but steady, pushing back the dark. The air carries a faint hum, the children's song, now distant, blending with the wind's soft sigh. You think of the nettle bread, the carved toy, the mother's hum, small acts that hold the world together. In the distance, a dog barks, its cry muffled by the haze. You lean back, the hedge rustling gently, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The year 536 is heavy, but the human spirit endures, its people sharing bread, carving toys, singing in the cold. You see it in the women's steady hands, the man's careful cuts, the children's playful voices. History is here, in the acorn loaves, the fleeting songs, the stubborn pulse of hope. You close your eyes, the lamp's warmth a quiet anchor, and let the meadow's silence guide you into the night. Part 13. You rise from the low hedge, the meadow's quiet song still lingering in your ears. The haze of 536 persists, but today, it feels a touch lighter, as if the world is exhaling after a long, held breath. Your cloak is soft with morning mist, and you brush it off, the scent of grass and dew blending with the faint ash that never fully fades. The clay pot, lamp, and bird figurine, tucked close, are steady in your cloak, grounding you as you turn towards signs of recovery, faint but growing, in this shadowed year. Let's wander together, you and I, through a world where sunlight creeps back, however slowly. May your evening be as gentle as a whisper, your rest as soft as moonlight on budding fields. You follow a winding path, the ground firm under your sandals. The air carrying a hint of warmth, like a promise half kept. The haze still softens the sun, but its light feels stronger, brushing your face with a faint glow. You pass a farmer, his hands calloused, sowing seeds in a small plot. He hums softly, his eyes fixed on the soil, and you sense a cautious hope in his rhythm. You nod, thinking of how you'd check a weather forecast in your world. Maybe cheer for a sunny day. Here, the sun's return is no guarantee, but it's enough to plant again. You offer a small wave, and he nods back, his smile faint but real. The volcanic ash, though still lingering high above, is beginning to settle, its grip on the sky loosening after months of twilight. Across the world, fields are stirring. Tentative harvests taking root in soil no longer frozen. You reach a village, its huts bustling with quiet activity. The air smells of fresh turned earth and baking bread. A welcome change from the mildew of abandoned homes. A group of women weave baskets by a stream, their hands deft, their chatter soft but lively. You pause, the clay pot steady in your cloak, and watch them shape reeds into sturdy forms, each one a step toward normalcy. You think of the acorn bread, the nettle loaf. These baskets might hold real grain soon. You step closer, and one woman, her eyes crinkled with laugh lines, offers you a sip of herbal tea, its steam curling in the cool air. You accept, the taste sharp but soothing, like mint and something wilder. You tease her about needing a better coffee shop, but the tea's warmth stops you. Instead, you help weave a few reeds, your fingers clumsy but eager, the motion calming. She tells you the stream's fish are returning, small but enough to feed a few. You nod, thinking of the silent rivers in China, the empty nets. Here, life is stirring, fragile but persistent. The stream babbles softly, its sound a quiet hymn to recovery. Here's a peculiar detail. Some farmers have started odd festivals to celebrate the sun's return. You overhear two men by the stream, their voices low, laughing about a village that danced in circles, tossing dried flowers into fires to feed the light. One says it looks silly but felt right. You smile, thinking of the painted stones meant to swallow the haze, the nettle bread born of hunger, the clay bird in your cloak. These sun festivals are another spark of defiance, a way to greet the light with joy. In your world, don't you celebrate small wins with parties or posts, cheering the end of a tough week? You share a piece of the loaf from your cloak. It's grit softer now, and move on. Historians still debate how quickly the world recovered after 536. Some say the climate warmed within a year, with harvests rebounding enough to ease famine. Others argue the recovery was uneven, with some regions languishing for decades. You see both here. The farmer's careful sowing speaks of hope, but the women's thin frames hint at lingering hunger. You wander through the village, passing a man repairing a roof, his hammer tapping steadily. He's using salvaged wood, he says, to ready his home for winter. You think of the crumbling bridge, the lost letter. Here, rebuilding is a quiet act of faith. You offer to hold a plank steady, and he grunts in thanks, his work a small stitch in the world's torn fabric. You leave the village, the path leading to a hill where wildflowers, small but vivid, dot the grass. The haze softens the horizon, but the sky feels clearer, the sun's outline sharper. You hear a faint laugh, children playing, chasing each other through the field. You sit on the hill, the clay pot, lamp, and figurine beside you, and sip the last of the tea. Its warmth fading but comforting. You think of modern recoveries, restocked shelves, reopened roads, and smile faintly. You trade this tea for a smoothie, but its taste feels alive. A pulse of 530 SIXS slow awakening. The children's laughter rises, a melody against the haze. As evening falls, the haze thins, the stars faintly brighter. You find a spot by a low tree, its branches budding with tiny leaves. You light the lamp, its flame small but steady, pushing back the dark. The air carries a soft hum, the streams babble, the children's distant giggles, blending with the wind's sigh. You think of the sun festivals, the woven baskets, the farmer's careful seeds, small steps toward light. In the distance, a bird calls, its note clear despite the haze. You lean back, the trees bark cool against your spine, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The year 536 is heavy, but nature is stirring, its people sowing seeds, weaving baskets, laughing in the fields. You see it in the farmer's steady hands, the women's deft fingers, the children's playful chase. History is here, in the budding flowers, the babbling streams, the stubborn pulse of renewal. You close your eyes, the lamp's warmth a quiet anchor, and let the hill's silence guide you into the night. Part 14. You stir from beneath the budding tree, the children's laughter a faint echo in your ears. The haze of 536 lingers, but the sky feels clearer now, its ashen veil thinning to let slivers of sunlight through. Your cloak is soft with morning dew, and you shake it out, the scent of fresh grass mingling with the fading tang of ash. The clay pot, lamp, and bird figurine, nestled close, are steady in your cloak, anchoring you as you turn toward the scars left by this shadowed year. Today, you're walking through a world forever changed, its wounds still raw but slowly healing. Let's wander together, you and I, through places marked by loss and quiet rebirth. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on weathered stones. You follow a worn path, the ground firm under your sandals, the air carrying a faint warmth, like a memory of better days. The haze softens the sun, but its light is stronger, casting faint shadows at your feet. You pass a traveler, his satchel slung low, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. He speaks of a city nearby, half emptied by famine and fever, now rebuilding with cautious hope. You nod, thinking of how you check news feeds in your world, maybe share a post about recovery. Here, recovery is in the traveler's steady steps, the world's pulse beating faintly beneath the scars. The volcanic ash, though settling, has left deep marks. Populations have dwindled, villages abandoned, and empires weakened, their borders redrawn by hunger and disease. You reach the outskirts of a small city, its walls patched with fresh stone, its streets quieter than they should be. The air smells of sawdust and baking clay, signs of rebuilding amid the ruins. A man hammers at a wooden beam, raising a new roof where an old one collapsed. You pause, the clay pot steady in your cloak, and watch him work, his movements deliberate. Each nail a small claim on the future. You think of the woven baskets, the sun festivals. These beams are another step toward light. You step closer, and the man, his brow slick with sweat, offers you a sip of watered wine, its tang sharp but refreshing. You accept, the taste grounding you in this moment of renewal. You tease him about needing a better construction app, but the hammer's rhythm stops you. Instead, you hold a plank steady for him, your hands steadying his work, the task a quiet bond. He tells you the city lost half its people to fever, and those who stayed built a shrine to ward off bad spirits. You nod, thinking of the painted stones, the monk's prophecies. Here, rebuilding is as much about faith as it is about wood and stone. Here's a strange detail. One city, gripped by superstition, rebuilt its gates facing a new direction, believing it would block the evil winds of the haze. You overhear two women by a market stall, their voices low, chuckling about the gate's odd angle, saying it confuses travelers but comforts the elders. You smile, thinking of the nettle bread, the clay bird in your cloak, the lost letter buried in mud. These misaligned gates are another quirk of 536, a blend of fear and hope etched into the city's bones. In your world, don't you see quirky rebuilding efforts, murals painted over scars, streets renamed for hope? You buy a small clay tile from the stall, its surface etched with the sun, and tuck it into your cloak. Historians still debate the long-term toll of 536. Some say the population losses and economic strain reshaped societies for centuries, weakening empires and shifting power. Others argue the scars faded quickly, with new trade routes and stronger communities rising from the ashes. You see both here. The man's new roof speaks of resilience, but the city's quiet streets hint at irreversible loss. You wander through the market, passing stalls with modest wares, small loaves, woven mats, clay pots like your own. A woman sells herbs, her fingers deft, and tells you the fevers have slowed, though fear lingers. You offer to carry her basket a few steps, and she accepts, her smile weary but warm. You leave the city, the path leading to a riverbank where reeds sway in a gentle breeze. The haze is thinner, the sky bluer, though still not whole. You hear a faint hum, a fisherman singing as he mends his net, his voice steady despite the years of empty catches. You sit by the river, the clay pot, lamp, figurine, and towel beside you, and trace the tile's etched sun. Its lines are simple, but they feel alive, a pulse of 530 SIXS slow healing. You think of modern recoveries, cities rebuilt, communities reborn, and smile faintly. You'd trade this tile for a coffee, but its weight feels like a promise, a mark of endurance. As evening falls, the haze fades, the stars brighter, like candles in a vast hall. You find a spot by a low stone, its surface smooth from years of wind. You light the lamp, its flame small but steady, pushing back the dark. The air carries a soft murmur, the river's flow, the fisherman's song, blending with the night's quiet breath. You think of the misaligned gates, the patched walls, the herb seller's deft hands, small acts of rebuilding. In the distance, a bird calls, its note sharp and clear. You lean back, the stone cool against your spine, and let the lamp's glow wrap around you. The year 536 is heavy, but its scars are softening, its people hammering beams, selling herbs, singing by rivers. You see it in the man's steady nails, the woman's gentle smile, the fisherman's quiet song. History is here, in the patched walls, the etched tiles, the stubborn pulse of renewal. You close your eyes, the lamp's warmth a quiet anchor, and let the river's murmur guide you into the night. Part 15. You awaken by the smooth stone, the river's gentle murmur still weaving through your dreams. The haze of 536 is nearly gone now, the sky a tentative blue, as if testing its own courage. Your cloak is soft with morning dew, and you shake it out, the scent of reeds and earth rising, the ashes tang finally faded. The clay pot, lamp, bird figurine, and sun-etched tile, tucked close, rest heavy in your cloak, each a quiet relic of this shadowed year. Today, you're sitting still, reflecting on the lessons carved by 536, the truths it whispered through its trials. Let's linger together, you and I, under a clearer sky, pondering what endures. May your evening be as gentle as a sigh, your rest as soft as moonlight on a world reborn. You settle on a grassy rise, the ground firm under you, the air carrying a faint warmth, like a friend returned after a long absence. The sun, no longer a pale smudge, casts soft shadows, its light brushing your face with a tender glow. You watch a farmer in the distance, his plow cutting steady furrows, his movements slow but sure. You smile, thinking of how you check a weather app in your world. Maybe joke about perfect planting conditions. Here, the farmer's quiet focus is its own forecast, a belief in tomorrow etched into the soil. You wave, and he nods, his eyes crinkled with cautious hope. The volcanic ash, now settled, left a year that tested the world, its fields, its empires, its people. Yet, from the ruins, lessons emerge, quiet but profound. You've seen hunger spark ingenuity, from nettle bread to acorn loaves, fear birth faith, from painted stones to misaligned gates, and loss forge resilience, from woven baskets to patched roofs. You set the clay pot beside you, its etched swirls worn but steady, and think of the places it's traveled, Constantinople's chilled streets, Persia's fading glory, China's silent rivers. Each stop taught you something, that history isn't just kings or wars, but the small acts that hold life together. You trace the bird figurine's wings, its clay cool in your palm, and recall the people who carried you here, the woman sharing broth, the monks sweeping temple steps, the children laughing in frost-dusted fields. Their stories, woven through 536. Remind you that survival is a chorus, not a solo. You think of modern struggles, pandemics, storms, divides, and how they, too, demand shared bread, steady hands, stubborn hope. You tease the farmer about needing a better tractor, but his plow's rhythm stops you, its cadence a lesson in patience, in trusting the earth to heal. Here's a light-hearted jab. Imagine if 536 had weather apps, buzzing with eternal haze, alerts, each update more useless than the last. You chuckle, thinking of the scholar's stardust theories, the astrologer's panicked incense, the monk's doomsday scrolls. Those wild guesses, like your world's viral theories, were attempts to name the unnameable, to find footing in the dark. You set the sun-etched tile beside the figurine, its simple lines a contrast to the chaos. In your time, don't you cling to small certainties, a favorite mug, a familiar song, when the world feels unsteady? You smile, the tiles wait a quiet tether to this moment. Historians still debate what 536 taught humanity. Some say it showed nature's power, humbling empires with a single volcanic breath. Others argue it revealed human grit, the ability to rebuild from ash and ice. You see both here. The farmer's plow speaks of renewal. But the empty spaces, abandoned huts, quiet streets, whisper of loss. You think of the ice cores, the tree rings, the silent records that confirm this year's wait. They're not just science. They're stories, like the ones you've carried, etched in clay and memory. You light the lamp, its flame small but bright, a final nod to the light that guided you through. You lean back, the grass soft against your spine, and watch the sky deepen to dusk. The stars are clear now, no longer ghosts, their light a map of endurance. You hear a faint hum, a woman singing in the village below, her voice weaving through the evening air. You think of the sun festivals, the fishermen's steady nets, the mother's hum in the cold, moments that held the world upright. You trade this lamp for a flashlight, but its flicker feels alive, a pulse of 530 SIXS quiet wisdom. In the distance, an owl calls, its note sharp and free. The year 536 is behind you now, but its lessons linger, in the pot's worn swirls, the figurine's hopeful wings, the tile's etched sun. You see it in the farmer's steady furrows, the woman's gentle song, the star's stubborn shine. History is here, in the small relics, the shared stories, the stubborn pulse of life. You close your eyes, the lamp's warmth a final anchor, and let the night wrap around you. The world is vast, its secrets endless, but for now you rest, the stars a gentle guide into tomorrow. You sit on the grassy rise, the stars now a gentle canopy above, their light no longer smothered by the haze of 536. The air is soft, carrying the faint scent of blooming wildflowers and the distant hum of a village settling into night. Your cloak rests slightly around you, the clay pot, lamp, bird figurine, and sun-etched tile gathered close, each a quiet witness to the year you've wandered through. The world feels still, not heavy but calm, like a friend who's weathered a storm and found peace in the quiet after. Let's linger here, you and I, for one final moment, wrapping ourselves in the warmth of what's been learned. May your evening be as gentle as a hearth's glow, your rest as soft as moonlight on a sleeping world. You trace the pot's worn swirls with your finger, feeling the weight of the stories it holds. The baker's small loaves in Constantinople, the poet's odes by China's silent rivers, the farmer's steady plow under a clearing sky. Each moment, each face, was a thread in 530 SIXS tapestry, woven not by kings or empires, but by hands that shared bread, voices that sang, hearts that hoped. You think of your own world, its own trials and triumphs, and how, like these people, you find light in small things, a kind word, a familiar song, a morning's first warmth. The bird figurine catches the lamp's faint glow, its wings poised as if ready to soar. A reminder that even in the darkest years, something endures. The night deepens, the stars brighter, their patterns a map of time's quiet flow. You lean back, the grass cradling you, and let the world's rhythms slow your breath. The farmer's hope, the children's laughter, the fisherman's steady nets. They're not just memories of 536, but echoes of what carries us all forward. You smile, thinking of that silly nettle bread, the misaligned gates, the wild theories of stardust. People then and now are beautifully stubborn, always finding ways to mend, to laugh, to begin again. Now you can close your eyes and let the currents of time take you away, drifting on the gentle tide of stories, knowing the world's heart beats on, steady and true. The lamp's flame flickers one last time, its warmth a soft goodbye. You feel safe here, held by the night, by the lessons of a year that bent but never broke. History is not just behind you, it's in you, in the small acts that shape tomorrow. You breathe out, the air cool and clean, and let the stars guide you into rest. Their light a promise that the dark never lasts forever.